Okay, so I'm working on my 2008 Mazda 6. This has a 4-cylinder. I'm going to be replacing the alternator. I've already diagnosed it as bad. Just to quickly show you, if you have a multimeter, you can turn this thing over here to volts. Just put it on like 20, and you can take and put you'll put your positive on your positive and your negative on your negative terminal with the car running. You should be getting around 13.8, 14 volts, up around there, somewhere way above 13. Now I could crank it up and show you what this one's doing, but I don't want to heat the car up because it's been cooling, and we're going to be working around, and you definitely want to have your car cooled off. So that's how I diagnosed it. And actually I know that it's the regulator on the alternator, because if you would rev the engine, it would start charging a little bit, but as soon as you went back down to idling, you would get no charging. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. And the first thing, I'd pulled it up on ramps to get it up off the ground a little bit. And on this side, I've just took and jacked it up and got some jack stands under here. And we're going to go ahead and get this passenger side wheel off here first. Okay, go ahead and loosen this right here and get this negative cable off. Just using a 21mm here to get these lugs off of here. When you come in here, go ahead and remove this inner splash shield. Mine's already out of the way here. 15mm on that tensioner. I utilize a couple wrenches, just turn that way, and I'm just going to slip the belt off right here as I push that down. Okay, now while we're here, you'll notice this crank sensor. There's a connector right here. We're just going to take and push on this right here with our screwdriver, and we'll be able to push that back. It's hard for me to get you an angle here, but you just push back the back of that connector there, push that down, and then we just push that connector back and off of there. Okay, there's that connector off of there, and you can see where it had another little fastener that popped loose right there. Just leave that right there for now. Okay, we're back here. I'm going to go underneath the car here just for a second so I can show you the location of these bolts. Okay, so we're looking up at the alternator there. That's the two lower bolts. You can see right there. And those are 13mm. We've got two down here on the bottom. We have one on the top. Now, the reason I'm showing you these is because I'm actually going to be working from the top. You can do it whichever way you want, but I kind of prefer to work from the top because it's a little easier for me. Okay, I've got a tire here, or the tire I took off, and you notice I'm going to use this to stand on because it doesn't slide around. And I'm going to come back here. You'll note the heat shield. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these 10mm, and you'll probably want to hit these with a little bit of WD-40, but I'm going to go ahead and just remove these, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so now this is loose. We'll just set that aside. Okay, so here's the replacement alternator. I just wanted to use this to show you a few things that may be easier. So it's sitting in the car like that. This is your top bolt. There's your bottom two. Now you'll notice this cover thing that goes around here. What's the purpose? I don't know. But there's a 8mm right there. Now that's the one I'm going to get in there and focus on at this point. Now also, you'll note that there's 3 of these. Either you can use a Phillips, if it'll ever focus in. You can use a Phillips back here, or you can use an 8mm on this cover here. So, but the first thing we're going to do is take this one right here, and I'm going to try to show you what I'm doing here in the car. So you see we got this wire right here. It's kind of in the way a little bit, so it makes it more difficult. But there's that 8mm that I was talking about, and I'm going to get down here with my little ratchet, and I'm going to take that out, and I'm going to use a magnet so I don't lose that little bolt there. So there's that little bolt that comes out of there, and now this piece will just lift off there, and you can see how it just has a little snap that goes over there, and then that goes into that bolt. Okay, and again, just to show you on this one that's out, all I did was get down here and just remove this little 8mm, just like I'm doing right here. And then this cover just has a little clip right there, and it just comes right off. Now, like I said, we're going to get to these back here, but not just yet. Okay, so remember I showed you the lower 2 bolts that are down under the bottom there. I don't know if you could see those there, but I was showing you from underneath. Now what I'm going to do, because like I said, it's easier for me, is I've just got a ratchet. Now you're probably going to need a cheater bar because these are going to be fairly tight, but I'm going to come through the top and I'm going to reach over and get down here on these. So you have to kind of feel for them a little bit, but to me it's like way easier. So I'm going to go ahead at this point and start working these lower ones and take them completely out, and then we'll move on to the next step. There's that first bolt that would have been on my right, and we're just going to go underneath and get the last one on the bottom. Okay, so there's the other bolt out of the bottom. Now my method may not work for everyone, so I prefer to reach down and just feel for them, but if you can't do that, you can just work from the bottom, but it's easier to reach down for me than it is to work overhead. So only one we got left is this bolt right here, and we got to get that out. But first I'm going to take some wire and I'm going to run it through something here so this thing just doesn't fly and start dangling on me. So we're going to go ahead and do that. I've got some wire just kind of wired up here to this right here where you would lift the engine. So I'm going to wire that up somewhere there, and then we're going to go ahead and remove that upper bolt because this thing's ready to come completely loose after I take that bolt. Okay, so I got my wire on there, and you could use some wire, string, rope, whatever you got. And I went through this little place where this wire was actually hooked in. Went through that hole right there. That was the easiest thing. You don't have to wire it up, but if you don't, you're going to have to catch it, and it's going to dangle on your wires, which I really don't want. But I mean, those are pretty strong. I mean, it's not going to really hurt anything, but it's going to fall down more, and I don't want that. So I'm just wiring it up. And now I'm going to go ahead and take this top 13 out. Okay, like I said, with this one, it's going to be completely loose. So I'm going to have to try to get a hand on it so it doesn't just flop down. Okay, so I can't do this one-handed, but I've got one hand on this thing, just pulled it around here. It's holding by my wire. We're just going to take these 3 bolts off here just to make it a little bit easier. I don't know that I need to, but I'm going to go ahead and take those 3 off right there just to get this plastic cover out of the way here so I'm not messing it up. Okay, so there's those 3 little tiny bolts. And now I'm just going to go ahead and remove this. Set this up here. And so now we're just going to go ahead and work this up and out of here. And I'm just not going to be able to do it one-handed, but like I said, there's like a combination coming through here, and you'll note the that we've got the Freon lines here, but it will come right up and through here, and you can see you got your wire here, but it makes so much easier disconnecting the connector and the wire that has the nut holding it on to just pull it up here first. Okay, so I come up, just nose up, kind of like that. I caught on that corner of that lower heat shield, but still no need to remove that because it didn't hurt a thing in the world. But definitely helps having the wire, because you can use that or some rope or something to help you pull it up. But I just come up nose up like that, and it fit right through there. Okay, so now we got plenty of room to pull this up here, and this here, this cap, we just push in right there, lift that up, and that is going to be a 13 millimeter. So we'll go ahead and get that completely off of there, and that should lift up and off of here. It's got some little clips that we don't want to break, but it's a little stuck, so let me get a screwdriver. Okay, I just flipped up the little back part and released this wire, and just leave that on there. This is the old one, so it don't really matter. This we're just gonna squeeze, you can see, and we'll just pull that out of there. So we'll just do reverse process, get our wire off here, we'll get our alternator over there into place. And just to give you a better view of this little rear cover, it just goes around there like that. Like I say, just have the 3, either Phillips or an 8 millimeter will work, and I'm going to go ahead and take those off of this replacement here as well. Okay, so there's that cover off, and while I'm here at it, this is your regulator down in here. It's inside this, but it's made on to this connection right here. So when it goes bad, it does exactly what mine was doing. It, at idle, you're getting nothing whatsoever. It's just draining your battery. But when you actually start getting up above 2,000, 3,000 RPMs, then it'll start charging a little bit. Okay, so I just put my wire back in this spot the way I had it before, and I'm just had to transfer this piece over, this plastic piece. I'm just getting ready to put this back onto here. We're going to tighten it down, and then we'll just take our connector and push it back into there and make sure that it locks into place. And losing focus. Okay, so I've just tightened that 13 millimeter. I'm just snapping this back down into place. It doesn't want to stay snapped. There we go. And we'll go ahead, and that goes to our crank sensor down there. We'll go ahead and start working this back in. So I'm just going to go nose down and just squeeze it right back through here just like I came. And I've got the wire holding it, so it's no worries. It'll hold there until I can get that top bolt started. Okay, so that top bolt is going to be the most difficult. You have to kind of hold it up with your wire and work it in. Make sure that connector is facing in that direction before you feed it down in there. I did have to turn it around before because I realized it was backwards. And so we're going to go ahead. I've got the top bolt. We're going to go ahead and just remove this wire and start working in our lower two bolts. Like I said, I'm going to go by feel and do it from the top. You can work from the bottom if you want. Okay, with that top bolt loose, I'm having to reach around here and has to be loose to get that cover on there. I got ahead of myself and didn't slap it on before I started that top bolt, and I don't want to take the top bolt back off, so definitely put this cover on before you do that. Well, I'm reaching around here and having to get mine in. It's a little bit more difficult, but I don't want to take it back loose because I had to fight with it a little bit to get that top bolt lined up. So now I'm just getting these in that rear cover. So definitely get that rear cover on before you go to putting your bolts in. Okay, so now with that cover on there, we're going to go ahead and snug these down really well. Okay, with those tightened, we're just going to go under and we're going to slip this cover here back into place. And we've just got the bolt right there. It just slips over that. So we're going to go to the car, and we're going to actually use this one because it doesn't have the broken clip like that other one there. Okay, so just slipping this over this here. And then we'll get our little 8mm in the front that's hidden a spot right there behind that wire. Okay, and that little 8mm, you'll have to just kind of fiddle with that plastic piece till you get it to line up. So now we're going to go ahead and get this heat shield back into place. And on mine, this wasn't a big deal. They weren't seized on there, but I would recommend putting a little anti-seize back on your little bolts, just in case you have to remove this in the future. Okay, so we've put anti-seize on each and every one of these, and we're going to go through with this 10mm and tighten all 5 of these to our heat shield. Okay, now we're going to come back down here and reconnect our crank sensor, and there is a spot like near that tensioner there where that little pop rivet that holds that wire, you can just kind of feel it back behind there to pop that back into its spot. And now at this point we're going to go ahead and get our belt back on here. We got the belt on. We're going to go ahead and get this wheel back on now. Okay, now so I've just double checked everything to make sure everything looked good. We're going to go ahead and get our battery reconnected and tightened down. Okay, so most importantly, we're going to check this thing out. We're going to set it over here. 20. And we'll get our positive lead here. And we'll see what our output here is. And see, we're getting, it's idling at 13.94. See, it wasn't even, I was getting like less than 12 boats with it idling before, and barely could keep the car running. Okay, so that's going to conclude this video. I'm just going to get it back on the ramp there and get my jack stands out from under it, and everything has went successful. As always, if you found it helpful, give it a like, and I invite you to subscribe. Thank you for watching.